All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Traction House podcast. This is Simon Jalbert, and today we have Mr. Tim Hughes on the podcast, who's going to talk to us about a sales process, a sales strategy that's been incredibly powerful for thousands of companies worldwide, including my own, including Traction House. Tim is the CEO of Digital Leadership Associates and is the world's #1 social selling influencer. He's a best-selling author and has written 2 books, one of which is called Social Selling: Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, and the other is Smarketing: How to Achieve Competitive Advantage Through Blended Sales and Marketing. He's worked with sales teams of all sizes across the world, and we are very thrilled to have him on the podcast today. Most of the firms that we work with at Traction House have heard that they should be doing social selling, but very few of them have the tools and the frameworks needed to just get started confidently. If that describes you and your situation, then definitely keep listening, because we're going to equip you with everything you need to know to start social selling with a bang in 2019. Tim, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Simon. It's I'm excited to be here. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction.
My pleasure. I mean,
I'm very modest about these things.
Well, don't be for the next minute or so. I mean, I'm pretty fascinated with everything you're doing. And right after we started following each other on social media, I just started looking a little bit more into you. And I mean, I can't believe how everywhere you are, and I find that very fascinating.
I am. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you have a huge following. I'd love if you could talk about yourself a little bit more and tell us how you get started in sales.
Yeah, so I've been selling for 25 years, and I've always been working in a B2B enterprise space. My background is new business. I hate managing accounts. I basically like going into building trust and immediately selling stuff. So I was merrily going along doing my thing, and I happened to get involved in a sales transformation at my previous company, which is a large tech vendor. They were under competitive pressure, which they were a classic on-premise company. They sold software, and then they got people hardware and services. And what happened was the cloud came along, and they had to transform into a cloud company. And I was part of that transformation, and we completely ripped up the sales handbook and taught them things like using whiteboards rather than PowerPoints, by storytelling and social selling as well. And off the back of that, I wrote Social Selling: Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, which is available on Amazon. And I did that at the weekend. And then 2.5 years ago, I set up my own company with my business partner, Adam Gray.
Wonderful.
And we're now a global company. So we sell direct in the UK, but outside of the UK, so in North America, in Asia, and in different places, we sell through partners.
Gotcha. So you really started social selling by necessity?
Yes. Well, we just found that the traditional way of marketing just didn't work anymore.
Why do you think? Sorry if I cut you off multiple times today.
No. We found, 5 years ago that cold calling wasn't working anymore, that there's too many people putting. There's too many people stopping you basically cold call, and people are pissed off with that. And when they're pissed off with it, if you ring them up, all you're going to do is piss them off. So we found that cold calling wasn't working. Email we find doesn't work anymore. And let's not forget that we have the GDPR regulations in Europe. So that killed email marketing completely. People don't look at adverts. I spoke at a Martech event the other day, and at the beginning of the presentation, I said, right, stand up. I said, sit down if you can remember the last 3 adverts you saw, and nobody sat down. So advertising doesn't work, email marketing doesn't work, cold calling doesn't work. Events, I've got clients in Canada who've seen their output from events drop by 60% over the last 5 years. So there's this very clear direction of travel that the traditional way of marketing doesn't work anymore. So where are our clients? Well, they're actually all on social. And we can, and we're going to talk about this, Simon, is what we can do is that we can connect with people and we can build relationships with people, but we have to make sure that we don't do it in a spammy way, because, again, all you're doing is, what happens is that people fall back on the traditional forms of marketing, but doing it on social. And unfortunately, the term social selling makes it sound like it's selling, but actually it's not, because nobody gets up in the morning and says, the first thing I want to do today is talk to a really aggressive, manipulative salesperson. So, if you are manipulative, aggressive salesperson, you won't get meetings and leads. And one of the things you have to do is actually stand back. But we'll talk about that. So social selling isn't actually selling on social. Social is about using it as a mechanism to get those first leads and meetings. But we can also use social during the sales process as well. And we can use that as a way of accelerating the sales process.
Why do you think that? I mean, I'm still fixated on the fact that marketing and sales is changing, and I think that for a lot of our clients that are primarily asset managers, that's something that they're just realizing now, or at least the large majority is noticing now.
So I disagree, Simon. I don't think it's changing. It's
changed. Yeah,
it's changed. It changed on the 25th of May. 2018, which is the day that GDPR.
Gotcha.
So you cannot anymore ring people up and they say go away, and you ring them up again, and then you ring them up again and ring them up again and send them an email and ring them up again, because there's three things. One is that you won't sell anything because you'll piss them off. The second thing is I now have technology that stops you doing that. So every cold caller that calls me will only ever ring me once, because I just get my iPhone and I block them. It's standard functionality on
Sure.
phones, on all mobile phones. So you'll never call me again. And I also have exactly the same technology in email. So people basically send me stuff and they only send it to me once, even though they don't realize that they're not GDPR compliant. Because I live in Europe, if you send me an unsolicited email, I can report you to the ICO, and you'll get 4% of your global turnover as a fine as a business.
Yeah, huge cost.
So you may decide that sending me an unsolicited email actually isn't worth it, and I'll block you anyway. So I have technology with me, legislation with me, and the fact you'll never get through to me anyway. So what are you going to do? I've got big clients that are absolutely, let's put this politely, terrified of their people making cold calls, because if everybody who cold calls me or gets through to me, I'll ask for my right to remain forgotten. If you then cold call me again, I'll just report you to the ICO. So, big companies cannot control what the spreadsheets that are on salespeople's laptops to stop them from calling people that may have actually already exercised their right.
Gotcha.
So you're in this position where the traditional push mechanism, where you would ring me doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And that happened, it's nearly a year ago that happened. And all of those traditional interruption forms of marketing and push, it's over. It's
gotcha.
finished.
So the answer to that, and I think both of our opinions, is social selling, is that form of marketing, that form of sales.
Yes.
What is your definition of social selling?
So social selling is really the reaction that us salespeople have to take to the change in the way that people buy. So if you go back when I first started selling, the only way that you would find out about, I started selling accounting systems and payroll systems. The only way that you would know about them is that I would actually ring you up and I'd tell you about them. And actually, in a way, people quite often quite like to hear it, because that's the only way that they could find out that sort of information. So, but now, if you want to find that information, you just go online. We're always sitting in bars, or, well, what about this? Oh yeah, I'll Google it. And so whereas before, you'd ring someone up and you'd say, "Can you send me a brochure?" And the brochure would appear 3 days later. You just use your mobile and you just go online. So I can look for anything in the wild, whether it's a pair of shoes, right through to a quarter, 500 million outsourcing deal, and I can research all of that online and do that without talking to a salesperson. Now, someone will be screaming at this point, yes, but someone has to talk to me. Yes, they do. So in the world of B2B enterprise sales, which I work in, to buy what I sell, which is social selling, you would probably need to talk to a salesperson, because you're going to want to work out how much it is. It's kind of not something that you can transact over the web. It's not something that would sell through something like Amazon or an e-market website.
We face the exact same thing.
Yeah. So anything that's where what we describe that as is a complex sale. So what happens is that you have to talk to a salesperson, but what you will do is delay it as much as you can. But what you'll do is that as a buyer, is that you will be looking for an expert or someone that can help you, someone that you may trust. Now, of course, the person is a salesperson. We know that. But if that person looks like an expert and you look like you can help that person, they're actually likely to come to you, and you will get inbound. So as a business, we get 3 pieces of inbound every day. And we do no outbound marketing at all. All our marketing is done through inbound.
Yeah, I mean, that's the holy grail, right?
Because,
so we're talking about the regulation stuff right now, and especially in finance. I mean, it's all the regulation stuff is just doubled, right? What you can say, what you can't say. I mean, it's incredible.
Yes, and the thing is that, so we people say to us, we're a social business. We teach people how to social sell. So why would we run ads and send emails and cold call people? Because that shows that we actually don't know what we're talking about, because we don't believe what we do. So we believe exactly what we do, and we train companies to do what we do. So, for example, I track all the social selling companies in the world, and I measure using a tool called BrandWatch their share of voice. And we have 6 people in our company. Our competition have 37 times more employees than we do. We have 60% of the share of voice. Doesn't mean that we're going to win 60% of the business, but you're more likely to ring me up and say, "I'm looking for social selling. Can I buy it?" Because you will find me, and we outshout all of our competition just by using the mechanisms that we teach our clients to do. So our clients will, without needing to spend money on pay-per-click, without spending money on SEO, because we'll sort that for them using social, without needing to spend money on advertising, without needing to spend money on email marketing, they can do all that through social.
Almost sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, it does, but it works. Yeah, I'm in London, so it's 4:20 here. So I've been with one of my clients today, and they've got their biggest ever deal through social. It's an American corporation. They've got the biggest ever deal. And the Salesforce one person is actually having to pull back on the social, because she can't manage the number of deals that she's getting.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of say that. I say it's too good to be true, tongue in cheek. It's something that we've been doing pretty heavily now for the past couple of months, and it's worked incredibly well for us. I think that with everyone that I speak to who's thinking about doing something along these lines and they're just not, there is this mental barrier about how much time it's going to take for them to actually see results. In your experience, once you start doing something like this, once you start doing social selling and doing it right, how quickly can you start seeing some results?
So there's a misnomer that social selling takes a long time. It's rubbish. Anybody who tells you that, run away from them, because if you look like an expert, if you have a strong network, and if you are posting useful content, then you will get meetings straight away. So the client that I was actually with today, the guy used to be the CEO of Tavaya, so quite a big company, yeah. And I just contacted him over LinkedIn and said, "You just put out a really interesting report on digital transformation. Are you doing that yourself? What are you doing?" And that was on the Thursday. On the Tuesday, I had a meeting with him, the CEO, his director of marketing, and his director of PR. So this stuff about social selling takes a long time is rubbish, but he will tell the story that 80% of what he gets is crap. So I was with a CIO the night, and he said it's really easy to sort out the stuff that you get on social because basically people think they can just template stuff.
Now, what you sent him specifically, and I'd love if we could talk about this a bit more if we don't name names, but was it a LinkedIn message that you sent him, or what was it specifically?
Yeah, so we don't use email. You're wasting your time. An email is basically a cold call on a social network. So emails are a waste of time. So you might as well just connect with somebody. So there's three key things that you need to know about social selling. The first thing you need to know, and before you do anything on social selling, is that you need to have a personal brand. So you need. So how do I? So when we go to meetings and we talk to people, we come across as a particular type of person, and we. If you're selling to the people, you're selling in a particular market because you understand that market. You're an expert at that market. That needs to come across on your LinkedIn profile. You need to come across in terms of the expertise, the industry, the relevance, and the fact that you're human. It should take you a day to do that. The next thing you need to do is to build your network. So this is not about contacts. This is about building a network of people that you know, you trust, you love, you have some sort of relevance with, you have a connection with, and have a some aspect of crossover. You went to the same university. You got in the same groups. You using the same hashtags, you're reading the same articles, you're liking the same people. So that's what a network is. And then the third thing is content. And we teach all of our salespeople to write content, because one of the best ways that you can show the fact that you are an expert and people will come to you is by having content that you've published on LinkedIn. And that often at that point, salespeople go, that's nothing to do with me. I'm not interested. You would be surprised. We're getting people that are salespeople that. I've just had a salesperson today say that he got onto a shortlist and then closed the deals through his blogs. So he responded to a blind RFP, and I know we shouldn't do this, but he did that, and through his blogs. So blind RFP. Spreadsheet, you've got to fill that in, and the only other thing that you could say about the company was a 2-page cover letter, so nothing really that could differentiate it. And he said at the beginning of the letter, what I'd like you to do is go and see my blogs. I've written 3 blogs about this, and I think you should go and read them. Within 10 minutes of submitting that RFP, the customer rang him and said, your blogs absolutely are the issues that we're facing right now, and you want that. At
the end of the day, it's just a bigger resume. Right? If someone can take a look at some of the content, your expertise that you've written out over the past year or month or week, it's a hell of a better sales pitch than someone who looks like he just started doing this yesterday.
Yes, and it doesn't matter what age you are, because we've all got, we've trained people in telesales teams who are 25, and they've done I went on a tour around Europe, and then I was a nanny for a year and that. And it's like, but all of those basically gives you experience to enable you to still look like an expert. And the worst thing that you can do is not look like an expert, because you just look a spammer. So we had one client say to us, and they said to us, we sent 250 LinkedIn connections and we didn't get one response. And I said, well, no, I didn't expect you to. And they said, talk to me, why? I said, because you look like a spammer. Someone's going to come back and look at you. They're going to want to expect, why would I connect to you?
So you're not a big fan of those auto ad bots, I'm guessing?
No.
Yeah, so you really have to look for, if we switch gears now into how someone can get started, you really do have to look for a genuine connection. And it doesn't really matter what that connection is, but it's got to exist, right? It's got to be a university. It's got to be articles that you follow, industry.
Yeah, I think that there has to be two things in common. So first thing, Simon, is unbiased. So for anybody to want to get into social selling, I of course think that they should read my book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, which, funnily enough, I've already mentioned is on Amazon, and I'm going to mention it again.
As you should.
Because the reason for that is that it's not written as a book of my journey and social is really interesting. The way that Matt and I wrote it is that it's within chapter 3 you are actually doing it.
Right.
So I've got a number of people that have come to me and they said, I read your book 4 times. I carry it with me in my bag. It's on my shelf, and because it's not a why, it's a how. And when Matt and I were writing the book, each chapter that we did, we brainstormed. And the first chapter, I'd been to a meeting, and a senior sales VP had leaned across the desk and said to me, and I'm going to take out the words beginning with F.
Thank you.
This social selling is all very well, but where are the leads? And we used that as a mantra all the way through the book. If we thought that the chapters were getting too fluffy, we needed to provide something very, very practical for salespeople, and that's the way this was written. And of course, I'm biased, but last time I looked, there was 45-star reviews on Amazon. And these are salespeople that have said, I had someone come up to me at Christmas drinks actually and said, "You changed my life." He said, I read your book and I pivoted my company completely on your book. And he said, "You changed my life."
I mean, I think that if all of my clients could start doing social selling tomorrow, I think they would all say the same thing too, right? So I'll definitely recommend the book.
This, and he's not the first person. And that, when I set out to actually write the book, I actually just wanted to get my parents to say, "Hey, you turned out all right, didn't you?"
Good job, son.
And I've got people coming out to me at Christmas parties, and he actually got on the floor and did the "We're Not Worthy" thing. It's like, I can't handle it.
No, that'd be a bit too much for me.
It's changed people's lives, and I do recommend it. But it's a really good place to start. But the 3 things that you do need to think about is your personal brand, the network, and the content.
When you say personal brand and you say that takes a day to build, do you simply mean just building a LinkedIn page, or what exactly do you mean?
Yeah, so your LinkedIn page is basically your shop window. It's open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and people will check you out. They'll check you out before meetings, and they will look at that and they'll take a judgment about whether that meeting is going to be useful.
We all do it.
And they take a judgment. Now, there's nothing wrong in the person saying, I think Tim, I listened to that podcast with Tim, and I think he's arrogant, and he talked about his book all the time, and I don't like that. Fine. Well, you were never going to buy from me anyway. So it's actually saved me time. So rather than me driving for 2 hours to sit in a 2-hour meeting to find out we don't like each other and me driving back again, I've wasted 6 hours. I've actually qualified you already on this podcast. If you think, actually, it's only fair that he positions his book a bit and I give him that, and actually sounds like a really interesting guy, then that's obviously a different matter. So in terms of your personal brand, it's about filling in your LinkedIn profile, and you've got to fill it all in. So you need a summary title. Now, if you Google yourself, what you'll find is that Google loves LinkedIn because it's full of content. So if you've got my name, I've got there's a Christian rock singer called Tim Hughes as well. So sometimes you'll get Tim Hughes, the rock singer, at the top. Sometimes you'll get me. But what you'll get is my LinkedIn profile. You'll get my picture, and you'll get my title. If your title is Killer Salesperson, I'm not going to click any further. If your title is interesting and intriguing and probably has an element of humanity in it as well, I'm probably going to go, he looks interesting, or she looks interesting. I'm going to look a bit further. You're then into the main part of LinkedIn. So in effect, you've got the top bit. The top bit there is not about your company. It's not about your products. It's about you. It's about your why. What do you do when you get up in the morning? What is it that you think about? Is it your family? Mm-hmm. Is it whatever? Now, the difficulty that people have with it is that is that a lot of people think that I have to be who you want me to be, and actually I should be who I am, because that's the most authentic thing. In fact, it's my unique selling point, and it's every company's unique selling point. The only unique selling point that companies have nowadays is their people. So, so that's your why. What is it that drives you? And don't write, I'm an energetic, tenacious. Yeah, I'm writing this business language that nobody understands. And everybody's an energetic, tenacious salesperson on LinkedIn. So you're not differentiated. Write about who you are. I'm a family orientated. I'm a marathon runner. What marathon running teaches me is that I've run a number of companies. In those companies, I've learned that it's about and it's, you write it in the first person. It's about I, not Timothy Hughes.
I know you're talking about one of my biggest pet peeves right now. People who write about themselves in the third person on their LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah, and then you fill it all in. So your career history, and usually you start from the bottom, from the top. And what you need to do in your career history is not write, these are my objectives. These are, this is, in this job, I learned this. And when I did this job and I thought I was going to be doing this, actually, it was too much for me and I failed. But from these failings, I actually learned this, and I took this to my next job. And in this next job, using the skills that I got from that failure, I made VP. Or whatever it is. The thing is what we're looking for is that authenticity, that when I have that meeting with you, you go, I'd wish I'd been a football star. I wished I'd played hockey, and that connection. It's making sure that we find that commonality, but also saying, I think if I met Simon, we'd go for a beer with each other. And that's what we're looking for. And it's a day. Contacts, just connect with everybody you know. Connect with all your ex-colleagues. Connect, all of your customers, all of your prospects. Just connect with everybody. And I connect with people before I go to meetings. And I do that because, in a way, I'm saying to people, this is what I stand for. Most people now, if you're in your 40s, probably have a network of 500. You need to have 2,000 in your network. And the reason for that is that what you're looking for is to get champions that are going to take what you create and spread it for you. So when you create in effect, the people in your network, so they kind of know that you're great. What you're trying to do is sell. We're using this as a prospecting tool. This is a proactive prospecting tool. So what we're trying to do is actually sell through our network. So there'll be certain champions within our network that will actually pick up our content and actually distribute it. So they'll distribute it to a far wider audience than you've got. Yeah. But if you think about it, if you've got a network of 500 connections, and they've all got 500 connections, you've got access to a network of 250,000 people.
Absolutely.
Which is, you could never get that through an email database. So the bigger the network, not contacts, but bigger the network, the better. Now, the criticality of this is not to sell. I know it's social selling, but if you turn up and send Tim Hughes a connection request and say, hey Tim, heard you on the podcast, thought that was really great, this is my list of products and prices, I'll just ignore you because I don't care. you would never walk up into to a lady or a man in a bar and basically say, will you marry me? You
wouldn't do it successfully, that's for sure.
I'd expect you to at least buy me a drink and dinner, and the thing that people always miss is that they bound across at people on social and immediately start selling. And as we said right at the beginning, which we all agreed with, nobody likes being
what
sold.
You're describing right now is the reason why social selling is even a thing.
Yes. So that doesn't mean that once you get the meeting, you can't go to that meeting and do what you've always done and done for the last 20 years. So social selling doesn't invalidate all of your social skills, your sales skills. What it does is it enables you to build relationships. So you connect with somebody. Maybe you like their content. Maybe you share their content. But what you do is, again, it's about building that commonality. If I go to a networking event and I bump into you and say, "Hi, Simon," we get a cup of coffee, and I say, "So have you traveled far?" And you go, "Well, I've come from here." And I say, "Well, actually, I was actually in Canada 3 months ago." "Oh, where were you?" "Well, I was in Winnipeg." "Oh, right, okay." "Oh, was it cold there?" "Yeah, it was absolutely freezing." But what we actually try and do is build this commonality between each other. We went to the same school, whatever, and so what we're doing is we're picking that up and we're doing that on social rather than actually saying that and standing there with a coffee. But if I was talking to you at a networking event and we would build that commonality, we'd probably exchange business cards and then we'd go away, and then I'd ring you up and we might then agree to have a coffee later on if that point we decided there was something that maybe there was a connection with. But also don't forget that a connection on social network isn't necessarily to sell something. This sounds strange, but it may actually be about helping somebody. So we set up a partner in Singapore, and we met with a guy in Singapore, and we sat down and he said, "I don't know why you're seeing me." I said, "Well, actually, Jay, you're not going to buy from us. We're not going to buy from you, but you sound really interesting." And he's talked to us about, he's developed this AI program, which is just amazing. And he said, "I've just spent the last 2 years touring the world. I've done 200,000 air miles, and I can't get anybody interested." I said, "Well, actually, we know the guy who runs the one of the AI incubators for Oracle in Singapore. Shall we connect you?" And he said, "Yes, please." That's just like amazing.
I hope
that you've just shortcut I've just wasted 2 years of my life when you've helped me. So he said, "Well, what can I do to help you?" I said, "Well, we're looking at the time. We were looking for these type of people." And he said, "I connect." He's right. I said, "This is my black book. I'll open it up. What do you want?" So he connected us to 5 people. So don't necessarily see a connection as someone you can sell to. See also someone as you can sell through to.
Absolutely, I think that's a very, very good way to put it. If you think back to the LinkedIn profiles, what's something that you see often? So we covered what they should do. What's something you see often that people do that just really doesn't help their cause?
They usually send me a connection request and immediately send me a list of their products and services. So they just get blocked. They have in their top in the top section, it will be all about their products and how great it is. And do you know? And really, I'm really sorry about this, and I'm going to apologize with it. We don't give a shit. Yeah, nobody gives a shit about your products and services. I may do in the future, but right now, I'm way too busy to give a shit about your stuff. And if we have that attitude and realize that, we'll sell more.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the key right there, right? People aren't always in market to buy something from you. But if you position yourself through content, which I'd be happy to talk about, if you can position yourself through content as the expert in that field, when they do need your services, you'll at least be top of mind, or you'll be in the short list of people that they think about at first. So when you start doing social selling, and let's say you've built out your LinkedIn profile very, very well, you have a network of over 2,000, and it's time for you to, hopefully you've been creating content throughout that entire time, but like, let's say that's really what you're focusing on now. How should folks who've never really written content before go about doing something like this?
So the first thing is to realize you don't have to write all of your content. So we in my book I talk about the 4-1-1 rule, which is about find 4 pieces of content that you curate. So using something like Flipboard, which is a free app, articles that would be interesting to your prospects or your clients, and use other people's content. So that's the first thing. The second thing is then create something for yourself. That could be, so for example, there's a company called Constellation Research. They've recently just brought out a piece of research on digital transformation. In the report, there's like diagrams and not pretty pictures. So I've got that, and I will basically cut and paste a pretty picture, and it will say 64% of the companies believe that they've got a return from digital transformation. What do you think? So I've just got a piece of content that's basically taken me 2 minutes to put up for free. Yeah, obviously I tag Constellation Research and the people that write the report, so that I'm actually showing it's not me or trying to claim that. The other thing is writing a piece. Now, the mistake again that people often make is that they think, because you're an expert, I've got to sit down and write a white paper that's going to, I know 1,000 things, and I'm going to write a white paper that's going to cover those 1,000 things. Now, if I read something, I'm probably if it's going to take me more than 5 minutes, I'm not going to read it. So white papers, you may download them, but you put them in a file on your desktop that says, I'm going to read them when I've gone on a train journey or a plane journey.
Yeah, and then usually never gets read.
Yeah, but if I send you an article which is you can read in 3 or 5 minutes, you'll read it straight away. So all you need to do is have one idea, because you're only ever going to remember one thing. Even if you read my white paper of 1,000 ideas, you'd only ever remember one thing. So in the blog, you have an intro. I was driving along today, and I was stuck in traffic, and I suddenly realised that and talk about something, put forward your idea, and then the outro. Now, again, don't sell. This is not about PR for your company. If you read any of our blogs, we never sell. What we're providing is expertise, and you'll be surprised that you can share expertise, and that's where people actually see you as an expert. People are often quite afraid of that, but if people don't know that you've got that expertise, it's kind of pretty pointless. And 500 words, put it on LinkedIn, and see how it goes. And what everybody says is that they're really scared the first time, but it's like a muscle. Once you get used to doing it, you'll get more confident. Yeah. So 4-1-1 is four pieces that you've created, one piece that you created for yourself, and one person that makes you look human.
Yeah, on the topic of flexing that muscle a little bit, that's something that we suggest that people do, is just start by sharing other people's content, right? And kind of break through that mental barrier slowly without having to write anything. And a few weeks down the road, a few months down the road, then you can actually start posting your own stuff, and it's a lot easier to do that way.
Yes, and most people on social will actually be nice.
Yeah, people don't care as much as you think they do. That's for sure.
Yeah. And for start, actually, nobody's sitting there waiting for you to post something. Sorry about that. And actually, that if especially if people have blogged themselves, they know that they would have gone through that process of being terrified of standing on top of that building and stepping off. And most people will go, that's a really nice. That's a really good article. Thanks so much. And of course, if they like it or if they make a comment, it then goes through their network.
Absolutely. What can they expect after that? So say they do it for a couple of months and everything's top notch. Their content's good. They're following your 4-1-1 rule. Everything's working. What can someone expect?
Well, you should be getting inbound. So, we measure two things in our social is inbound and revenue. Not really bothered about anything else. But there's two ways that you will get business through social. One is business will come to you. The other is that you are outboundly prospecting through social, not selling in the way that you're doing it but by growing your network, by being visible, by sharing content. You will find that more people will want to connect to you, and then you start having conversations with people. So what we're finding in that client that I was with today, they're meeting with some very large organizations because people are going, that's interesting. Yeah, I've got that issue. And you'll find that, so the CMO I was with yesterday, she said the more time you put in, the more you'll get out. So some people say you need to spend 15 minutes a day. It is true. The more you put in, the more you get out. I'm in social all day. And that's not just because it's my job. It's my job to sell. So the other thing, one of the objections we get is I don't have time to write, and it's kind of number 5 on my to-do list, and I never get past number 3. It's like, okay, well, I'm giving you permission to write because actually writing is now prospecting. You can't cold call, you can't send emails. Actually, writing and proving that you're an expert will generate you more business than doing any of those things. And actually, it's easier. So, I write a blog every day. We publish a blog every day. And that's how we prospect.
Yeah, you really have to fall into the habit of it. It's funny. I was talking to an asset manager called Corey Hofstein, very well respected across the States. And I was asking him about his marketing and what he's done to acquire leads. And he essentially expressed the same thing that you just said. He said, listen, I started writing content because he enjoyed doing it. And he's like, if I would have known that spending an hour to 2 a day writing content and publishing that content on social media a day, if I would have known that that's how I would get 90% of my leads, I'd tell you're crazy, right? But I think that's something for people to keep in mind. Like whatever industry they're in, this stuff just works. And I know you're talking about your book, but as someone I don't owe social selling anything. It doesn't owe me anything. I just do it. It works very, very well. And the results that we've gotten have come very quickly.
So in the past, you may have blocked out 2 hours to phone people. So you phone people up, you don't get through, you leave voicemails that they don't respond to. And we used to have cold calling days at my previous company, and the salespeople say, well, that was a waste of time because I couldn't get through to anybody. And it's like, well, yeah. But if you actually spent 2 hours using that time to actually prospect using social, you'll get far more of a response. And in most of the research that we're seeing social selling being twice as efficient as the legacy sales methods. So, and once people actually start using it, they realize that this isn't about getting a little bit pregnant. This is about, if something's more efficient, why would I have a car and a horse and cart? I'm just going to drive everywhere in the car, and that's it. Once they start getting used to social and realizing the power and the gain that they can get for little effort versus the legacy methods, they do it all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. And the point I was trying to make there is that I think anyone will be, if they give it a shot for at least a month, right? And follow your advice here. Build out your LinkedIn profile, grow your network, follow some kind of content strategy. They'll be surprised by how quickly it starts working. Because that's what we keep hearing, right? What we keep hearing is that it's just going to take too long. And I think you and I can both agree that they'll be very pleasantly surprised. What kind of tools would you suggest that people who are looking to get into this? What kind of tools do you recommend?
I'm not a big tool person. Actually, I do a lot of my stuff manually, and I do it manually because I think it's important that people see. If you contact me on Twitter, within 24 hours, I'll get back to you, even though I've got 200,000 followers. You can have a conversation with me, and I challenge anybody who's listening to this, connect with me and talk to me, and I will do that, and I will talk to you. I
can attest that's true.
It is true. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I use Buffer, and I use Buffer to schedule, not automate.
Gotcha.
So it's important, certainly on Twitter, because it's a fast-moving social network, that you're constantly posting things. So on Twitter, you need to post like 20 times a day, whereas on LinkedIn, it may be only once. So if I'm in meetings, I'd schedule things to make sure that I'm posting stuff out, even when I'm in the meeting. But what I'm not doing is I'm not automating it and walking away. As I say, if you want to get hold of me, you can get hold of me. It's pretty 90% of the evenings I will actually go through my Twitter feed and I'll check to see who's actually out there and talking. So we use Buffer. As the company, we use Brandwatch. We use Lead Feeder on our website. So those are the sort of tools that we use. But I'm not a big.
Gotcha. So all the social listening tools, you're not a user of those.
So we use Brandwatch as a social media listening tool. And I use Passel as it's a very quick blogging tool. But while I say that, it's people quite often see a tool as a silver bullet. If you don't have a culture of blogging and you're not used to it, a tool won't help you. You've still got to learn how to blog, and you're better off putting stuff on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Do you have a preference? I mean, it sounds like it's LinkedIn and Twitter, but is there any use to building out your Facebook profile at all, or does that not matter?
The thing is, if you're starting off, is not to spread yourself too thinly. So, LinkedIn, Twitter, maybe Instagram. The thing, people often say that Facebook is about family and friends. Actually, the groups are really good on Facebook. And people generally use Facebook still as we all work for a company, and that kind of often spills out onto Facebook. But again, don't sell. But if you're just starting out, just go with one or two and just get comfortable before you start spreading out too thin.
I definitely share that sentiment. I mean, I've seen a few people doing cool things on Facebook, and I'm not a power user by any means. So I've seen a couple people successfully develop brands on Facebook, and I think it works for them. But definitely, if you're going to start out, especially in the asset management space, starts by LinkedIn, starts with Twitter. You can identify your leads pretty easily, and you can identify who you should connect with pretty easily. So it's you get to jump a few steps there for sure.
Yes,
absolutely. Tim, thanks for your time. Really, really appreciate it. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can find me on Twitter. On Twitter, I'm Timothy _Hughes, and Hughes is HUGHES. They can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm Timothy Tim Hughes. I have the same photo on all of my social profiles. And you can get me at tim@social-experts.net. And our website is social-experts.net.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your time. This has been fantastic. I already know that the few people that I've talked to that I said I was going to have you on today, we're all very excited about it. So I look forward to sharing some of the results with you.
Okay, I'd love to do a follow-up.
Absolutely, would as well.
You've been listening to the Traction House Investment Marketing Podcast, designed to help investment advisors and marketing practitioners leverage content marketing to rise above the noise in today's crowded, fragmented attention economy, capture investor mindshare, and ultimately grow their AUM. We hope you found today's conversation insightful. Stay tuned for more.